All right, Ammar, it's time for us to stop teasing and face this one head on because we've had three or four clickbaity titles now talking about Max Verstappen leaving Red Bull. So we're going to hit it hard, head on, right now. What do you reckon?
I reckon that you should stick to pediatric surgery and leave the Formula One content business to me, man.
What? Unbelievable. It's just,
Just do your thing.
that's just mean, man. That's just mean.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's too much of you asking me about all of this stuff over and over again.
Does that mean we can't bicker anymore? Oh, that's a shame. I,
Ah,
I,
come on, guys, let us
I
bicker.
know.
Let
I
us
just,
bicker. Come on.
this is it. This is the only thing that makes me happy is arguing with Ammar.
Yeah, we're losing our arguments at home, man. Let us feel like we've done something here.
Right. Okay.
Uh,
We are going to have a go at this. And I wanted to try and hit this with three questions. Right. So the first question is: should Max Verstappen leave Red Bull? Like, is there an argument that he actually should at all? Second question is: where will he go if he does leave? And the third question is: where should he go if he leaves? And I think those are three separate questions. And there's definitely a distinction between the last two. Where will he go, and where should he go? So let's hit the first one first, Amar. Tell me, should Max Verstappen leave Red Bull?
Oof. Should you leave pediatric surgery? But then again, it's neither here nor there. No, he shouldn't, Shez. He absolutely shouldn't. We're coming up on the end. Well, okay. Well, first of all, before we start complaining about everything that's going on in the last couple of weeks, need I remind you that we're 10 days removed from Max Verstappen winning a race and then finishing P6? And I get it. Like we're acting like the world is falling apart. By the way, 10 days ago, we were crowning him once again as the goatiest of drivers. So I don't understand how we can just go from there to like, anyway, neither here nor there, Shez. Red Bull have done a lot for Max. In fact, just ask all of the drivers that have been axed on account of Max being there. Like they have literally said in no more indirect terms that you are our guy and we don't care who's in the second seat. I mean, we literally see driver after driver after driver after driver come and go because they have been supporting Max in every way they can. They've won four straight championships together. Like, I don't understand how you can just kind of be here and now, prisoner of the moment, and just expect that something will change in the future. By the way, we're coming up on a new rule set, right? The cars will be slightly different next year, new engine regulations. There are a lot of uncertainties. There is no guarantee that anyone has it done. And Shaz, how many times do we at the start of the season hear about Ferrari figuring something out, McLaren figuring something out, Mercedes have figured something out? We don't know until they actually hit the track, and we actually don't even know until a couple of races pass. So you have no earthly idea when we hit the quote unquote reset in 2026, which team will be great. So there is no guarantee for anything being better than what he has right now. In fact, I would argue that Red Bull themselves will reinvent whatever they need to, maybe even hire back some of the talent that they've lost in some way to kind of build around him because they're going to be committed to him more than anyone else will. So my first take on this is no, absolutely not. He should not leave.
Fair for 2026, but perhaps for 2027, once the field is a bit more set, do you think that perhaps there's more of an argument at that point for him to go right? Cool, I'm out.
Max strikes me as a Kimi Raikkonen kind of guy where he would just kind of step away from all of the BS, as he would call it. He probably would say something better that would arguably get him fined or banned or whatever. But yeah, I don't see. Does Max strike you as the kind of guy who wants to put up with kind of going to and says, man, going to a new team, dude? Like, how many times have we seen this? I mean, Lewis Hamilton is struggling right now. These are when you change teams, that's not that easy to kind of make things happen to. I mean, Fernando Alonso is a great case in all of this, right? Like making the right move at the right time. This that does involve a lot of luck. So I don't see Max as somebody who will gamble, and he also does not have a lot of patience for not being upfront. So let's say he does move to another team and they're struggling. What then? So I'd probably see him retiring or not retiring, but taking a sabbatical, I guess. He's got personal stuff coming up too. So I would imagine that would be a more appealing thing to him, and he could come back to whoever he wants to eventually.
Yeah, I mean, but that still sounds like okay, he's going to leave Red Bull, and that's the point of this particular
Cool.
question. Not is he going
Fair.
to go somewhere else, but is he going to
Fair.
should he leave Red Bull? I don't know about a sabbatical really. Yes, I take your point. We're both dads, and having a young family does change your priorities a little bit. So perhaps Max might turn around and be like, the situation at Red Bull is no good for me anymore. So yeah, I'll just step back from Formula One altogether. But I want to try and put this in terms of what Max says he wants. So he had said at the beginning of last year, or maybe even in the middle of last year, he reiterated it again when all of the hullabaloo was happening in Milton Keynes, that there's sort of three things that he needs. The first is that he wants a competitive car. The second is that he wants team harmony. He doesn't want ructions in the team. And the third is that he wants everyone pulling in the same direction, that he wants everybody to be focused on winning. So let's run through those one by one. You said, okay, he just won a race in Japan last weekend, but if you look at the trend of the car since the middle of 2024, since they started hemorrhaging staff, actually the car hasn't been that competitive, has it? Like he just finished sixth in the last race, and that was about where the car deserved to be ultimately. He couldn't use any more Max magic to get it any further forward, as Fernando Alonso might say. Agree or disagree?
Weren't you the one that argued that Red Bull had the fastest car last year?
They did have the fastest car over the course of the entire season.
Okay. Just saying, I mean, but my point is that, yes.
Yeah.
If it was over the course of the last season, then we're only 4 races here.
But we're talking about the trend from the middle of last season.
Agreed.
Right?
If they're not dominant, I agree. Yeah,
but
not
not just not dominant. He won one race. He won.
I mean, they've
2
been
races.
in the mix, Shez. He was on the podium in Australia too, so it's not like.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's
where
not.
Did he finish in Shanghai?
He shouldn't have. He wasn't in a position to win that race in Australia on merit. He needed a safety car. He needed a wet track. He needed Oscar Piastri to fall off the road to be in with a shout of winning that race. Right. That otherwise that wasn't going to happen. And in China he was miles away. In Japan, yes, I agree, it worked out for him. But that's one race. This isn't like a 2023 style domination. Which when I listened to Max, and he's said this before when he won his first Mexican Grand Prix in 2018, he said that's what all my races should be, that I should be winning by 20-30 seconds. He doesn't want to be in the fighting wheel to wheel with people. He wants to be up ahead. Those are his own words.
I understand that, Ches, but even he knows that's not realistic. Like, I mean, I get it.
But it was in 2023, wasn't it? And it was in 2021.
Well,
sorry,
I mean,
2022, 22 and 23, and the first half of 24 as well. He had exactly what he wanted. Like I understand that Max knows that he can get more out of the car if he needs to. I just don't think he wants to if he doesn't have to.
But none of the drivers want to, Shez. And I think this is also a glass half empty. I mean, this is also a reference on what the competition is. There was none in 22 and 23. There was some in 24. Well, no, more than some. And now the competition is caught up. So it's not like going elsewhere is going to just automatically, I mean, McLaren are there. And he's not going to McLaren. So, I mean, it's not like, they weren't there. They just weren't there. So, I mean, that's always going to be a bit of a toss-up.
Sure. But in terms of the three things that he wants a competitive car, a car that can win a race if he can do his thing. And at the moment, yes, it might be able to win the odd race, but it's not going to win him a championship. His words. His words exactly were, I'm not challenging for a championship at the moment. I'm just taking part. His words.
Okay. Yeah, right? Fair.
That's number one. Second is team harmony. So ever since everything that happened at the beginning of last year with the two factions, what it seems to me is that, yes, that's been sort of swept under the carpet a little bit, and perhaps the two sides, the Marco Verstappen axis versus the Nvidia Horner axis seem to have buried the hatchet, and they seem to be getting along more. But that seems to be okay when your drivers winning races and challenging for a title. As soon as that isn't happening, you start to hear reports of Raven Moylan, Max Verstappen's manager, berating Helmut Marko in the garage, and that was played down by Max. I agree. But those things are happening, and the team harmony there, especially with people leaving and going elsewhere, often with the excuse that they didn't like the environment that they were working in at that time. Newey said exactly that was part of the reason why he left. Surely that's not an ideal situation.
It's absolutely not. But this happens with every team
Does
that
it?
wins a lot.
Does it?
Yeah, this does it. It always look, man. When you're the one chasing, you're all pulling in the same direction. It's easy to do it then because you're all focused on one goal. It's staying there
But
that's hard,
but
right?
but
And that's when all the cracks form. That's when egos come into play. That's when all these things that are bubbling under come into play.
but Ammar,
Everyone thinks that they're
those
the reason. So,
those cracks came up at the beginning of last year when Red Bull
indeed,
were dominant. So
indeed.
they were winning. So
No,
that doesn't hold water.
well, but it does, Shaz. It's not something that happens overnight, right? It's always drip, 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 and then you start to see the breaks. As in, we've already seen
Sure.
two emergency meetings in four race
Thank you.
weekends. So there you go. So it is there. But again, that's not. But none of those were around Max, by the way. Well, I guess the second one is around Max in the sense that they're not able to find. Look, there's no denying that they do not have that they've lost personnel. But Shaz, you would argue that even if there was no drama there would have been people leaving. That would have been the case. Now, is Adrian Newey the elixir in all of this, and that he is the one that is the reason for success, and that's the path that Max wants to follow? Maybe, okay. But again, being in a new team anywhere else does not guarantee harmony. It just doesn't happen like that.
But Amar, it's not just Adrian Newey that's left, is it? And it's not just the technical team that
No,
is
that's
becoming
exactly.
gutted, right? It's the operations side of things that is
Yeah.
losing staff. In fact, you know, Jonathan Wheatley leaving, and then you saw what happened in the pit stops this season over the first four races. It's not the same kind of team anymore. Paul Monaghan's still there, but that's it. That's the only sort of old hand they seem to have. And again, I understand your argument that you get friction at every team, but we're talking about at Red Bull, which is what Max is talking about when he says, I want team harmony. At the team he is in at the moment, he doesn't have it. As far as I can
No.
see.
Yeah, I think it's not there at the moment. You can say I think the question is whether that can be rectified over the
Sure.
course of this
But that
season and beyond,
but
right?
that's two out of the three things so far.
Yeah.
So let's just have a quick look at the third thing. Are they all pulling in the same direction? Are they all gunning for a title? I think if you'd asked me this a couple of races before Bahrain, I would have said, yeah, I think they probably are. But now that I've seen a couple of like pit stop blunders and I see the fact that they're needing to have these emergency meetings, and the fact that you have the technical team continuing to say, we've got correlation issues now, and we're going to continue down this path and blaming it on the second driver, not looking inwards to understand, is it us that's causing the problem? That for me starts to speak of a team that is also kind of like they're looking to blame externally at their second driver rather than looking internally and going, okay, we're the problem here. We need to readdress what we're doing. It's a slight stretch maybe, and I'd be happy to defer to you on that one. But you tell me, what do you think?
I don't know, Shaz. I don't buy into the idea that they're not pulling in the same direction because they know what's at stake. This is a five-peat, right? Is that the right way to say it? I guess for Max, and they've given up on the constructors essentially because they want to focus on getting Max's fifth. So I don't I now look it I would argue it's not a case of lack of motivation, but I do think that to your point, all of these vacancies, the leadership sort of lacking, it does kind of result in you do have to take a step back to kind of get everyone on the same page. Leadership styles, communication styles are different. All these things take a little bit of time. So I'm one that wants to give it a little more time because look, man, when you have stuff like this happen, it does rock you a little bit. There is a moment of questioning everything. I'm sure they're going through some iteration of that. It doesn't mean they cannot rescue that. It doesn't mean that someone else couldn't step up and fill in the gaps over the course of the season. And by the way, their goal is simplified, Ches. They don't have to worry about driver drama. They don't have to worry about winning a team championship. What is there other than to support Max? I mean, they could basically just let Yuki drive the same car that they gave him in Bahrain for the rest of the year, and no one would complain anymore.
Yeah, but
And God
not.
knows if he even makes it
But
that
Ammar, not
long.
if
But
that
whatever.
car is finishing sixth on merit at the
No, no,
majority of races. So that's
no, no.
that. Then whether they're gunning for a team championship or a drivers championship, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, but I mean, so again, the question is, are they not motivated enough, or they just don't have the answers, right? And the question is, if you're the driver there, what are you going to judge it on, right? You're going to have to look at the here and now, but you're also going to have to look at the future and say, okay, well, maybe it's not going to happen this year. Maybe, I don't know, maybe too soon, but maybe it's not going to happen this year, but can it happen in the future,
Yeah,
right?
okay, but
And Shez, the everything that you're saying, just keep in mind, we're talking about Max winning 4 championships, but they have built this team years before that as well. And it's not easy to go to a new place
but
and build
those
that.
but
These are
those
plug and play.
building blocks are falling apart. The foundations of that building are coming
I don't know.
apart.
Maybe the new people need a little bit more time. They need a little bit more
How
time.
much more
And keep
time
in
do they
mind when
need?
they were building,
Ammar, they were
but this is just
talking.
it.
Go on.
But Chess, this is just it. When you say that they were building these blocks, they had no expectations. The problem now is there are expectations. So
That
again, there's no
no,
way to
that
speed
no,
that up.
no,
It's trial by
no,
fire.
no. That's not what I mean. What I
Tell me
mean
why.
is like Adrian Newey says he left because the technical team that were there said we don't need you. We've got this now. We've built everything up without needing you. So they were already building. Now they're out there on their own. How much more
Yeah,
time do
but
they need? This is a team that has already been built up. Has made the point that we've proven ourselves already. All of the stuff that's happened in the last 3-4 seasons because of us, Pierre Vacher, the rest of his team. So you can't turn around and say to me, "Oh yeah, they need more time." They've
but
had the
Chess,
time, and
but
now
Chess
now they're
again.
being exposed.
So mitigating circumstances. There was no competition the last couple of years. So I don't know what to take from whether Adrian Newey or Pierre Vacher and company. I can't say Pierre Vacher without saying Pierre Wash now. I just have to say it. I can't differentiate between the two. Again, it's a glass half full, glass empty, half empty argument in that were they great because they were great on their merit, or were they great partially because you had Ferrari competing with them? Good God, what was that like in 22 and 23? So I don't know if that makes any sense to kind of look at it that way. We do know now that McLaren have nailed it. We do know that Mercedes are right there. We do know that Ferrari are even ahead. So this is a question of competition also catching up.
Yeah, but if
And where were they going to go from where they were at,
I,
Chess? They were at peak level. So what did you expect? They were going to hit another level?
sure, but if you're going to use empirical evidence for this, but then there clearly is another level. I'll come back to that in a second. The fact that they were dominant at the beginning is because they had a team that was able to create a dominant car. They picked ideas that worked when other teams did not pick ideas that worked, and that's down to Adrian Newey, I think. But the rest of the technical team are trying to take credit for that. They have been, and they've been saying we didn't need Adrian Newey. This is our idea. And now that Adrian Newey's gone, now that Rob Marshall's gone, they're being exposed for the fact that actually they didn't have a clue past that particular idea. They didn't have another ceiling, and there clearly was another level to go to because McLaren have found that.
Well, I
That
mean, let's
clearly there
let's
is
wait
a
and see. Let's wait and see
Ammar.
if they. I
This is the
mean,
last. This is the last year of this rule set,
no, I
right?
know, but there's
So,
a
so,
technical.
so, if you're talking about a further level in this rule set, McLaren already found it. There clearly was a better
Yeah,
concept to go
of
down,
course.
and McLaren found it. It wasn't Red
Yeah,
Bull that did, and it
it's,
was a guy that came from Red Bull that gave them that idea. So again, it comes back to the fact that the technical team at Red Bull might say that that they were the ones coming up with all of this. They clearly were not. And therefore saying, "Oh, they need more time." Well, no, I think that they if they had more time, they would continue to just show what they're doing at the moment, which is
yeah, but only
unimpressive,
McLaren have
unfortunately.
nailed it. No one else has, right? So
Well,
I mean, again,
Mercedes are
what we're
ahead of
seeing
Red
is,
Bull. Ferrari are ahead of Red Bull.
yeah, give it some time, Shez. I mean, Max is not finished that far low. Like, oh man, I think it is premature to have this discussion. It really is. We haven't seen how the technical director will play out. Like, just wait and see. Let's see if McLaren have truly nailed it or not, because there's plenty of evidence to suggest that they may not have fully nailed it in the right
McLaren have
way.
won
So
3 out of the 4 races in this season
I
so far.
understand that they didn't win a sprint though, right? They're all from one there. So there you go.
Wow, that's what we're going to use as the argument. Very good.
That's what
Okay.
Max should
Anyway,
use now.
anyway, so we've spent 20 minutes talking about whether or not Max should leave Red Bull, and I feel like we haven't even managed to
We
agree
haven't scratched the surface.
on that. Anyway, let's move to question number 2. If he were to leave,
Oof.
Ammar, where will he go?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, so I'm on the record on this one, so I can't really backtrack from this. If he leaves, he should go to Mercedes. If everything
Wait, wait, wait. Where will he go? Not where should he go?
oh, where will he go? Oof. I think the obvious ones are there, right? It's between Mercedes and Aston Martin,
And
right?
which one of those two
So
is he going to go to?
I think he's going to go to Mercedes. I really do. For the same reasons that I think he should go to Mercedes. And look, Aston Martin are exciting because Adrian Newey is there and they have a lot of money. But those two things don't guarantee. I mean, harmony is not something that happens overnight. It's not something that can be created, especially if you're in the midst of heavy competition. And Aston Martin, yes, they have Adrian Newey, but they haven't proved to be great anywhere else. I don't know about their race strategy, things like that. Like you have no idea. They have been in no kind of battle of any consequence ever. So I have no earthly. They could be Ferrari when it comes to strategy. Who knows, right? There's no way to know that. Mercedes, on the other hand, have a well-oiled machine. They have proven to be successful. They have proven to be dominant. They check off, Shez, all the three boxes that you mentioned that Max wants, right? So, and they're led by a credible leader, and there is a lot that aligns there. Mercedes is a big brand, arguably bigger than Aston Martin in some ways. I don't see why he wouldn't go there. I know Lawrence Stroll has a lot of money to offer, but I imagine that Max is also motivated by just winning way more than money. He can make a lot of money wherever he wants. That would be the right place for him to go. Now, whether he can go there or not is a different thing, but that's where he should go. Will go, rather.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think you answered the should question there. But anyway, I think this question comes down
He will
to
go there.
like any great crime novel. It's about motive and opportunity. So does he have a motive to go to Mercedes? I would say yes. Given what we just said about the technical team at Red Bull, there's a huge amount of uncertainty in terms of how competitive their power unit is going to be. Even if F1 and the FIA agree that they're going to do some kind of leveling off process that will allow teams to catch up if they're not competitive from the off. You'd still have to have some doubts about the Red Bull powertrain, the Ford power unit that's going to be released next year. And I've already made my opinion clear about the aerodynamic and chassis team at Red Bull. I just don't think they've got the minerals anymore. So is there a motive for him to go to Mercedes? Yes, I think their power unit is going to be, from what we're hearing, is going to be the benchmark, the standard. We've heard this kind of hyperbole from Mercedes before, but this sounds real, and they've got previous, haven't they? And in terms of from an aerodynamic and chassis point of view, they've still got James Allison there. James Allison is preeminent. If you're not going to have Adrian Newey, you probably want James Allison right now. He is pretty legendary. So yeah, I think the stuff fits. He'd have a car, as you say, he'd have a team that would be pretty much in harmony if they got rid of the incumbent in one of those seats, who might create some disharmony. And that brings me on to opportunity, because as we said on our last video, Mercedes, George Russell is yet to sign a contract for next season. There's lots of flirting going on, and he seems to be doing the business on track. But as you say, or as you said on our last little conversation, that they've not put pen to paper yet. So there is an opportunity there for Max to go. And as we all know, Toto's been sitting there basically since 2015 trying to get him in one of his cars. So motive and opportunity. But what about Aston Martin? Does he have a motive to go there? I'd say yes. There is a motive to go there, certainly. The team that's being built up there has some pretty powerful ingredients. They've got an infrastructure that also helps. And he'd be reunited with some of the team members that he worked so well with in the past. Honda would be there. He's like the second coming of Senna for Honda. They love him. So for him to go back and work with them again, certainly I think appeals to Honda much more than having Fernando Alonso in the car. I think you'd agree. There wouldn't be so much of the GP2 engine comment.
I mean, slight sidetrack. Are we pushing Alonso out? Is that what we're doing?
So that's where I'm going to have to come to opportunity. But also reunite him with Adrian Newey as well, and that sweet new Silverstone factories. That's the motive, the opportunity. Who's going to have to go? So Fernando Alonso in the press conferences today said, well, I'm pretty flattered by the fact that somebody wants to take the seat. Obviously, he says something huge about what Aston Martin's aspirations are and what their potential is. But mate, I ain't going anywhere. So if you're gonna go down the route of where the actual opportunity lies, it's more likely at Mercedes. So I'm going to agree with you. I think where he will go is more likely to be Mercedes. But where should he go? Ammar? I think I already know what you're going to say.
It
Because
sounds
you kind of
like
already answered it, but go.
No. I'm changing my opinion to align with you. I think he should go to Aston Martin because that is real fireworks now. I mean, good God. So I don't. Is this why Fernando is praising Max so much? Like, is he like sort of passively trying to appease him so he doesn't come to Aston Martin? Because does anyone see
How would
Lance
that
Stroll
work?
getting the axe? Well, I don't. I mean, if Lance Stroll hasn't got the axe yet, then what suggests to you that he will get the axe when they actually have a shot at winning everything? So, oof. I actually kind of want to see what that looks like. I want to see if that so he's actually going to replace Fernando there. I mean, I'm pretty sure Fernando is going to feel different about the way Max races after that happens. No, yeah, I think look, Shez, I would agree with you. The opportunity and motive rather, is there at Mercedes. But I could see Aston Martin working because, as you say, Honda, Adrian Newey, money bags. I don't think that's a winning combination, but that would be the second best opportunity for him. So I could see that happening. I can't argue with it, certainly.
I think the Lance Stroll conversation is
Fascinating.
hilarious. But only because he's the only Aston Martin driver this season to have actually scored any points.
Yes, and he's going to be the safest driver on the grid forever. Like everyone else is movable. Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, everybody, Oscar Piastri. He is not going to move until Lawrence sells that team, or it's just not going to happen. So I don't know what you're doing.
Lance throws in the towel. If Lance, the problem with how I think people perceive Lance Stroll, right, is that they think he's uninterested in driving. I don't see that necessarily, other than what happened in Brazil last year. In general, he seems to be the kind of guy that just doesn't want to do interviews. Like he's monosyllabic. He doesn't care. He knows that whatever he says to the press, he could basically turn around and say, my car is a pile of garbage and I hate my dad, and he would still have a seat because Lawrence is still his dad, man. But I don't necessarily see that he's not motivated to be in the car, especially the first few races of this season. He seemed much more like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's see what I can do. He hasn't been doing it massively successfully, but he's not been the Lance Stroll that we know and love. Other than in the last two races.
I mean,
but I do agree. I think in terms of where Max should go, that would be my argument. I think that there's a bigger upside in terms of the long term for Aston Martin, just based on Adrian Newey's history in the sport. And I've said it so many times, but Adrian Newey has never moved to a Formula One team in his career and not won a championship with them, right?
Yeah. Well, again, I don't disagree with any of that. But,
so if you're going to use that as your evidence for what's going to happen in the future, you'd have to kind of bet on Adrian Newey doing that. And Aston have very, very deliberately made the point that Adrian Newey is not focusing at all on the 2025 car. And that's actually a smart move, because that's not what Adrian Newey does. Adrian Newey doesn't fix other people's problems. he had the same issue when he turned up in Red Bull in 2006. There was already a car concept in place. The rules from a technical standpoint weren't changing, so he wasn't able to have a massive impact on the car. It's when there was a new sheet design that was needed in 2009, that's when he made his impact, because he brought these new concepts that nobody else had thought of and applied them to the car. He's not a fixer, he's a creator, and that's why having him focus on 2026 is the absolute correct way to use Adrian Newey. And that gives me great hope for 2026 from an Aston Martin point of view. It probably gives them great hope as well. You saw the pictures of Fernando Alonso bowing down to Adrian Newey's feet when he was announced.
I mean,
that's the promise.
Fernando,
that's the promise, isn't it? But the question is, does Adrian Newey, have the sway to be able to bring Max in now that he owns a bit of the team? Should he go to Mercedes? Is there an argument there for that?
Yeah, he should go. I mean, it's it's everything that we just talked about, right? Which is there's already a team in place. There's stable leadership. So there's harmony there, right? Clearly, there's no issues whatsoever. And just look at how they've been performing this year too, right? I mean, a car that's clearly a step behind, maybe a couple of steps behind McLaren, but overperforming, and they clearly haven't lost. They've regained their mojo, right? You could argue. And so going into a new rule set, that would be great. And then, of course, the Mercedes engine is rumored to be the best. I don't know about that, but um, clearly, as you say, that they have in the past said those things and they have followed up on it. It's not the old Ferrari kind of thing where all is nice and bloomy in terms of updates before a race starts, and then everything kind of looks like it's falling apart right away. So yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I do think there's a question about Ches, so we have to address this too, no? Because Max Verstappen himself brings in a lot of drama. Not that he is drama, but the people around him are also drama,
Yeah,
Shez.
let's
So we have to kind of get to that as well.
So let's talk about that. I think that's important because this isn't any relationship is made up of two sides. So what is it about Max that might put off potential suitors? Is there anything?
I think look, I think Max is very focused on winning, and that's absolutely fine and perfect, right? But I think what we haven't witnessed completely yet is how that behavior changes when you are in this phase, right? So we're kind of seeing some iterations of that. Now, look, the reports could be exaggerated, but there was a report that, you said it, right? Max Verstappen's manager kind of scolded Helmut Marko, and that became a big deal and all of that. And Jos Verstappen has not been shy to insert himself in all of the drama too, and he too has been involved in pulling some of the strings from behind the scenes too. So, and by the way, Shez, we cannot even kind of forget the fact that the second driver has always suffered at the hands of the team that has put Max Verstappen in the first seat in the car, and we're going to be focused on Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, Liam Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda, etc. But you also have to look at Carlos Sainz, and he was available to Red Bull, right? And you could have argued that, not argued, you would have been right to put him in that seat. You wouldn't be having all these emergency meetings, and they didn't put Carlos in clearly because that's not what Max wanted. Max really wanted Liam. He stood up for him. So there are all these oddities that are there. That these are all off-track issues, by the way, but they do kind of point to does harmony come with him or not is the question, right? And this is why I think leaving Red Bull, by the way, is not a good choice for him, because he would have to acclimate to a new environment. So let's say you put him in that Aston Martin seat, right? I don't know. Is it Lance Stroll or Fernando? I don't know. I mean, if it is Fernando, then there's going to be fireworks. I mean, there's clearly Fernando's not going to feel about Max the way he does if he's driving next to him. I guarantee you that. Like, all the platitudes are going to go out of the window right away. If he's competing with Lance Stroll, I mean, again, I don't know what that looks like. But let's say you put him in a Mercedes. I mean, you have Kimi Antonelli has shown great promise and potential, right? So how is that going to work out? Like, is he going to be able to be okay, kind of being alongside Kimi, or even if it's George, let's say George somehow retains his seat and Kimi gets moved, who knows? I don't know. I don't know about that. So there is a question about all of the things that happen, the circus that comes with him, much like we described the circus that comes with Lewis Hamilton. I want to clarify again, it's not Max or Lewis that bring the circus rather, it's the people in their orbit that bring that. So this is not me pointing a finger at Max, but I'm just saying that this is what you have to expect.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that that's something that you need to take seriously. Mark Hughes put it really nicely in his book that Jos Verstappen has created Max as a gun for hire. Like he's not designed to be at one team. He's there to provide his services, and as soon as you're not providing what he needs, it's fine. We're going to go somewhere else. And if it's to be believed that if he drops to below third in the drivers' championship, then there's some performance clause that says that he's allowed to leave. So it's up to Red Bull that they've decided that they've had to build their entire team around their greatest asset. But for Max, he knows that he's their greatest asset, so he can leave at any point. But that gun for hire thing, as you say, comes with a massive flip side, which is that you don't just get Max, you get everybody else that comes along with Max as well, the entire circus that is associated with him. And that includes Jos, it includes Raver Moylan. Who knows what Helmut Marko would do if Max leaves? Would his position at Red Bull be tenable anymore? We know that the Thai side of the company don't particularly love this guy at the moment. So would he be part of the entourage as well? Is that something that a team would want as part of the team harmony? So Mercedes might turn around and say, well, the upside is that we get the benchmark, right? We get the driver of his current generation, right? He is unbelievably good, and you are guaranteed to get the best out of the car that you produce. That's the upside. The downside is all of the stuff that we've just said. As soon as things don't start working at the team that he's in, you'll start getting the noise from the other people. And does that then create some disharmony within your team? And that's something that, if I'm honest, I think Aston Martin with Lawrence Stroll as this sort of owner, dictator somewhat of that team would be better placed to handle than Toto, who, although he also owns a third of the team, there's a greater there's a greater sort of marketing problem that he has, where he is beholden to more than just himself, and it becomes, I think, a slightly more difficult situation for Toto to find himself in than it does for Lawrence to find himself in.
And just if Max goes to Mercedes, he would have to be the one making all the adjustments. I mean, Mercedes are a proven entity, right? They have standards. Yes, they may not be Red Bull, but arguably even more successful than Red Bull. I mean, we can debate that at a different time, but they're up there. They're a team with accomplishments, much like going to Ferrari. So there is a little bit of adjustment, that maybe a lot of adjustment, that he would have to do, culturally speaking, all of that, right? And what I mean by culture is team culture, etc. That is not necessarily true at Aston Martin, where they are in this form of Aston Martin, they have done nothing. So of course they'll be willing to sell the farm
I agree. Nothing proven, right?
Yeah.
I think Andy Cowell is doing a great job in terms of
I have nothing to show
creating
for,
the
really,
environment that's going to make it successful.
Correct.
And you'd expect him to do that. I think he seems like a good leader, Andy Cowell, that is. But yes, I agree with you. I think Aston Martin is much more of a blank sheet, whereas for Mercedes it would be much more of a plug and play situation. But if he doesn't plug and play the way that the Mercedes want him to, then
it's going to create
it's
sparks.
going to create some ruction. Yeah,
and the second driver is going to be formidable, no matter who it is. So that's not something that the Verstappen entourage has welcomed a lot in the past. So this is why I kind of come back to when we were talking about it. Should he leave Red Bull? I don't think he's going to get a situation like this. Max has only been with one team his entire career in Formula One. I mean, if you want to include Toro Rosso, I mean, but it's still the same thing,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
it's not,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
not,
yeah.
it's
I tell your point.
so it's not that easy. It's not like Fernando who's been a journeyman nomad, right? Like he's just kind of gone everywhere. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tough transition. But
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. I think those are the main points that we wanted to hit. As usual, please like, please subscribe. Tell us what you think. Is Red Bull the right place for Max Verstappen? Should he go somewhere else? Will he go somewhere else? And where will that be? Where should it be? Let us know. We'll read every single comment and we'll reply to as many as we possibly can. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Daniel Lane, man.